Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Kitaab Klub. Today, I will be in conversation with Swati Hegde, the author of our April book, As Long as You Loathe Me. Just to give you guys an intro, Swati Hegde is the author of Love Beyond Reasonable Doubt, which is out now. As Long as You Loathe Me, our April book, and other romance and young adult novels. She's also a freelance editor, mindset coach, and self proclaimed coffee shop enthusiast, like me, who lives in Bangalore, India, and can often be found at the nearest cafe with a hot mug of tea or singing her favorite songs off key at karaoke night. She looks forward to a long career bringing Indian stories and voices to life. Hi Swati, welcome to Kitaab Club. I am so glad to have had As Long as You Loathe Me for April and to talk to you today about this book and all your other books and upcoming books as well.
Hi, Anvita. Thank you so much for having me on again. I think the last time we spoke was when Match Me If You Can came out, which would
Yes.
have been like, and I think that was like 2024. So it's been a
Yeah.
good 2 years since then.
You had
So
three books out in that meantime.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and your queer, queer
Yes.
debut.
It's my queer and also my YA debut. So
Yes. But
I'm so
also,
glad.
congrats on the release of your fourth book this week,
Yes.
Love Beyond
Yeah,
Reasonable Doubt.
literally. Yeah, literally 2 days before we're recording this.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
must
it
have
was
been a
it was
crazy.
really
Yeah,
yeah, it was really stressful just because As Long as You Loathe Me came out March 31st.
exactly.
Love Beyond Reasonable Doubt came out 2 days ago, May 12th, and it was just like I think having two releases back to back in the same year would have been really anxiety inducing and obviously exciting, but
Yeah.
also just, so much promo that you have to schedule and be like, today I'm going to talk about this book, but tomorrow I have to talk about this book because they're both coming out in like a few months.
Yeah, two book releases in 1 year is already crazy, and then having them back to back, like in less than
Yeah.
2 months, is I can't even imagine. To start us off, just because we might have a different audience, if you can walk us through a little bit of your writing journey and what it has been like.
So I think I knew I wanted to write books when I was like probably 7 years old. My mom is and was a reader, and she used to write as well when she was younger. She used to write for Kannada magazines, just, as a fan.
Mhm.
So I think I got my writing gene from her. And she used to read out books to me and my sister, just narrate stories that she heard, like Kannada folk stories and all of that. And so I just got this, like, I just fell in love with stories and storytelling. And I was just like, someday I want to make someone feel that excited about stories as the ones my mom is telling me, how they make me feel. I want to make someone feel that way. And so I think I was maybe 9 years old when I wrote my first book. It was called Twinkle the Wonder Girl and Friends. I don't know if the American audience watching this will know, but like when we were kids in India, we had these Navneet, like tiny notebooks, which like, you'd use for school, like just, because you're a fourth grader, you'd use like these tiny notebooks to write all your homework in. And so I got an extra one of those and I just filled it up with, maybe like 60 pages of this novel, Twinkle the Wonder Girl. And it was a middle grade book. So it was about this girl who moves to a new school, and she feels like, left out and the outsider. And this was very autobiographical because my dad was a banker. And so we would move every 3 years. So I would have to be in a new school every 3 years. So I was very much writing my own narrative.
Mhm.
Except when she gets to the new school and this kid bullies her, she fights back with magic. And she realizes, okay, wait, what's going on? Do I have magic? And then this other girl in class sees it and she's like, you're a wonder girl, just like three other girls in this class, including me. And so these wonder girls, they basically open a portal to an alternate dimension every night when the rest of the world is sleeping. And they go into this alternate dimension called Horrorland, where they have to fight monsters before they can come to Earth and kill everyone. And so that was the book. And I ended that book on like a huge cliffhanger. And I never wrote the second book because I was like, I don't know how to write this. So I just never wrote the book and I moved on to a different project. Thankfully, now I've gotten a lot better at finishing projects instead of just leaving them half done. But yeah, that was sort of, I just kept writing after that, multiple books, all of which are unpublished, thankfully, because they were not good quality.
Mhm.
But then again, I was like 7 years old, so that's fine. I think I
Mhm.
decided to seriously get published after I graduated college. And then it was, I think, 5 years of querying 6 books, accumulating like 400 rejections from multiple literary agents until finally Match Me If You Can got me my agent,
Mhm.
and then a book deal with Penguin Random House. And then since then, it's been 5 book deals. My 5th book comes out next year, which is super exciting. So that's sort of what my journey's been like. It's been really wonderful, really exciting, just as anxiety inducing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm really glad it's, come to this finally. A
Yeah.
7-year-old me would be so proud.
Honestly, yeah. But also, I am so curious about this middle grade book now. Like, when are we getting that? When are you making your middle grade debut now? You've said it, so it has to happen now.
I should really revisit those. The problem is I don't have that manuscript anymore. Like I think we moved houses like 5 times after that. So I don't know where it got lost in the shuffle of packing and moving. But
Mhm.
maybe it'll come back to me in
Yeah,
a
I mean, you
dream or
remember most
something.
of the plot, so
Okay, fair, valid. I remember the entire pitch and the plot twist at the end.
Exactly.
Uh, someday. I'm not making any
Mhm.
promises because I have like a fifty billion other ideas to write that are in the
Yes.
pipeline. But I'm gonna add this to the end of that list just because
Mhm.
you asked me to.
Yay! I knew a little bit about like your publishing journey, like such an inspiration. See, hearing about it, like 6 books you queried for over 5 years, and then
Yeah.
Match Me If You Can, and now it's like you've had 4 books out, and you have another one coming, and like I mean, even on your Instagram, like I see all your stories about like your plans, and like you're such a planner, and like I feel like you
Yeah.
know what you're doing in the next 5 years and how many books you're gonna have out, and like you're just like a go-getter, and it's just
Yeah.
inspiring to see that as someone who wants to write and publish someday. So yeah, I love
Thank
that.
you.
On the reading side, and like what inspired you, like obviously there were the Kannada stories, and like hearing, that's like such a big part of our culture. I feel like hearing
Yeah.
narrative stories like told through generation after generation.
Yes.
And I also grew up with that. And so I'm wondering if there were other stories slash books that made you think, I want to do this, or like that just like inspired you to want to get into this field.
So I remember one of the first YA authors I ever read was Casey West. She was like, I feel like when I was younger, her books were just like literally, this was the era when YA books didn't have like illustrated covers. They were all like real people models. And so, it was,
Yeah.
it was a while ago. I'm aging myself with this, but it was
No,
a
I
while
as
ago.
soon as you said Casey West, like the picture of like their heads are not there, it's just their
Yes,
like
yes.
body. Like I can't remember what book it is, but I remember that cover.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think she was one of the first YA authors, or even just one of the first contemporary or like romance authors I ever read. And
Mhm.
I just completely fell in love with that. And obviously it made me be like, I can't wait to have a boyfriend someday, fall in love and blah, blah, blah. But it was also like, I can't wait to make someone fall in love with the characters that are falling in love in my own book someday. And I think that was when I really got into like, I want to write romance, even though I'd literally never experienced it in my life. But
Mhm.
yeah, and the funny thing is, Casey West is now an author who's also published by Delacarte. And I actually got to meet her when I went to Love Y'all Atlanta Romance Fest. And it was really cool. She actually was in the room when my then boyfriend proposed to me.
Oh
So
my
she was
God.
like she's literally in the background of the video of like her gasping at him proposing to me is literally like forever gonna be seen by generations to come. So
Yes.
it was just a really wild feeling to be in the same room or in the same panel as the author who really inspired me to start writing romance. So yeah, that was just fantastic.
That's such a key moment. Like I feel like that's gonna like stick with you forever. And I feel like what you were saying about like you wanted people to have those feelings towards your characters that you write, like you wanted them to love them. I feel like you've done like such a good job with that, especially with As Long As You Loathe Me, because it's like, yes, they are making bad decisions. Yes, they're not perfect people, and they can still be loved. Like I loved Mira and Lucy,
Yes.
even though they were making some very questionable choices and
Oh yes.
decisions
Oh yes.
throughout.
Oh yes.
but I was still rooting for them. So, I think you got that balance like really well of
Thank
showing
you.
real 3D people that we could see around us while also making us get that close and personal perspective on them to be able to love them. So,
Yeah, thank you.
okay, going back to how I was talking about, like, you're such a go-getter and you have like these plans when you do them. I'm wondering what your writing process is like, because you also do editing and like you
Yeah.
coach other authors and things like that. So like, what is your writing process like, and how do you like balance all these different aspects of being in the publishing world?
First thing I'll say is I absolutely love my job. I feel like I started out as an editor before I even got published. So I have that, I think this year is the 10th year of me offering editorial services to people. Again, I'm aging myself. Yeah, I kind of feel like it's really good to be able to have that editorial background, I think, because of course that's really helped me with my writing. And that sort of taught me not just how to edit my own work, but also how to accept critique from my agent, my editor, because, a huge part of traditional publishing is unlearning what you thought was good writing and rewriting what you've already written and just feeling like, oh my God, I'm such a shit writer. And then being like, no, actually, I'm a good writer. I just need to like tweak some things with the feedback from these amazing people who are rooting for me. So I think the two sort of go hand in hand for me. I don't think I would ever want to be in a place where I'm only writing. I think I would want to always be editing or mentoring or coaching other authors because one, it's an amazing way to just see what other people are writing. And the other thing is, it's just such a nice feeling being able to help other authors and being able to guide them and work with them. And then, seeing them 1, 2, 3 years later coming out with their own books with, publishers or just indie publishing their books. It's really the best feeling. As for my like writing routines, it's really all over the place, honestly. Like I feel like, when you see my Instagram with the get to do list, like that's super organized. But what I do is, like I make that list and then I'm like, I feel like doing this task right now. So I just do a little bit of that. And at any given point, I'll be working with like 3 to 4 different clients at a time. So there might be, 2 clients that I'm doing developmental edits for on their full manuscript, 2 clients that I'm just doing 10-page critiques or like a query critique for. And I might be working on 2 different writing projects of mine at the same time. I think last year, 2025, I worked on 5 different projects that I was working on. My own writing projects, I worked on 5 different projects across like, first draft, editing, copy edits, just, another first draft, brainstorming and plotting and outlining one more project. And it was just so much. In my brain, it's all very organized. But then when I get to my laptop, it's just chaotic. I'm very like, I feel like doing this, I'm going to do that. So I'm a very vibes and like gut feeling based writer and editor. I like to say that I plan and plot out my plots for my books and like I outline and all of that. But I do that. But in the moment, I'm like, I actually want to scrap the scene entirely and do something else. And I just go ahead and do that. Because I strongly believe that your gut as a human, as a person, as even a writer is just so strong and so powerful. And like if it's leading you in one direction, you don't want to be like, no, but I have this outline already saying something else happens. Like, forget about the outline for a second. Just write what your heart is telling you to write. And I strongly stand by that.
It's always interesting hearing authors' take on plotting versus pantsing. And I think the way you put it is like so good. So what was it like for As Long As You Loathe Me? Like what was like the initial inspiration or spark that led you to writing this one?
So I really love this question because it was, I think the idea came to me in 2022 or 2021. I think before I even signed with my now agent, I think I was just, I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan. And I was watching, just for fun, I was watching the You Belong With Me music video. And I think this was around the time that I had myself come out as bisexual. Like, this is so cute. Like, I love that music video, like this, dorky girl falls for like her next door neighbor who's a jock, and like she's madly in love with him, but he's dating this cheerleader. And I think around that time I'd also binge watched like Mean Girls. And so the two kind of like, blended into one another. And I was like, what would have happened if Blonde Taylor had decided to, sabotage the cheerleader and been like, I'm gonna steal the jock away from her. But
Yeah.
then in doing so, she fell in love with the cheerleader. And so that was the first spark. And that's literally what As Long As You Love Me is. Like, you can see it on the cover, right?
Yeah.
And then I just built it a little bit more like, what's the real motivation here? It can't just be about the guy. So I was like, okay, it's also about her getting revenge on this cheerleader because they used to be best friends and then she did her dirty and just adding all those layers in like it was. And obviously I wanted it to be an Indian or Indian American protagonist because I'm always going to write books with Indian characters in them in whatever capacity I can. I think my decision to set it not in India, I really thought long and hard about that. And then ultimately, I thought it would be so fun to have Meera have two gay dads. And I was like, if I set this book in India, yeah, that's not going to happen. Because I don't even know if in India, like two men can adopt, which sucks. But I actually don't know if that's something that's a possibility in India. And so I was like, I need to do this. Like, I want to do this. Like, this is going to be so cool. And so I was like, I'm just going to do it. And so I set it in this fictional town in California, Madre Maria. It was really nice to sort of set it in America because I think a lot of times when you think about, queer fiction or writing queer romance in India with characters living in India, there's always going to be this element of like, in the back of your head, you're going to be like, yeah, but queer lives are so ostracized in India. As much as we've seen so much progress, like even in Bangalore, there's a thriving queer community, but it's always going to be like, these two kids who are in high school, and like just being queer is not normalized in India yet. Right. I hope it is someday, but it's not. And so I was like, I don't want to write a book where the focus becomes then queer trauma and becomes like, all about we can't be together because what will, society say? What will our parents say? Like, of course, Lucy grows up, with a traditional Christian mother. So she does have that, I cannot come out as pansexual because my mom's going to freak out. And like, I have this amazing boyfriend who's madly in love with me and I cannot, and I do love him too, but maybe not in the same way that I loved Meera once upon a time. And so that element is definitely there, but I didn't want it to be all about.
Yeah.
I wanted to show that, in Madre Maria, even though it's a small town, and yeah, some people are narrow-minded or they talk, but at the end of the day, you're safe to be queer. And I really wanted that, and that would not have happened if I'd set the book in India. As upsetting as that is the fact. But yeah, that was all of the world building and the brainstorming of As Long As You Loathe Me, and it just this book is honestly my favorite child out of the four children I have, birthed into the world as of now. So yeah, book 5 is, I think I love that book a lot as well. The one that comes out next year. That's also a sapphic YA romance.
Okay.
That one is set in New York City, which I love because I went to New York in February this year. And I completely fell in love with New York. But I think As Long As You Loathe Me, being my queer debut, my YA debut, being the book I wrote for 16-year-old Swati. So yeah, this book is a love letter not only to Taylor Swift and like sapphic longing and yearning and just mean girls angst, but also just the girl I was when I was 16 who just didn't know what the hell she was doing in life and who she was going to fall for or end up with.
I love that answer, like in its entirety. So many different things I want to ask about that.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, obviously I knew this was like inspired, had like some, elements of Mean Girls vibe, and I do want to talk a lot about that as well.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously some aspects, but then you also have diverted from some aspects of it. And I mean, I only the last time I watched it was in high school, so my memory is a little not great about it. But Mira's friends and like that relationship and like the way it like goes up and down because of her revenge plot and stuff. Like, I'm curious about what was your thought process in adding things like that versus Lucy's friends. I love them, Julian and Natalie. Like, I
love them.
I would read anything that Julian's in, to be honest. But
oh yeah.
Like, because from what I remember in Mean Girls, like obviously the main group is like not good. They're not good friends to each other. They're not good at all. So like, I'm wondering what was your thought process with that? And also, I mean, you already answered it a lot, but like, I am glad to hear that a lot of your decisions about the queer aspects in this, and like setting it in California and like in not in India, was related to wanting to showcase queer joy instead of queer
Yes.
drama. But yeah, I'm curious about like the decisions regarding getting inspired from like these other media, and then what to stick to and what to change towards in this story.
I think the biggest thing for me was to show that Lucy, despite being head cheerleader, despite being popular, despite, stealing Mira's crush and then dating him, I really wanted to show that, like, she is just a genuinely wonderful, sweet person. And, all she's trying to do is, hide her secret that she's pansexual and just live a good life and just get out of Madre Maria as soon as she can, because she just wants, a life in New York. She wants to work in publishing. And she's so desperately hoping that it's Sushant, her boyfriend, that she's going to spend her life with, because, in many ways, like, he's like this safe space for her. Like, I really loved writing their relationship, and that the depth of their like love for each other, no matter what kind of love it ended up being. Like, I think Sushant was also like, along with Julia, like, he was my favorite character. Like, I love writing cinnamon roll men in my books. I love writing them. Like, I don't think I can ever write like an alpha male kind of guy, and I really wanted to show that like Lucy has genuine loving friends in her corner, like people who are like her ride or dies. Just because, there's this common stereotype, like if you're popular, your friends are probably all just hanging out with you because they want to be popular too, and they're just using you, and there's a lot of like conflict between all of you that no one's addressing. But I really just wanted to show that like you can have healthy friendships even if you're popular, and you can have healthy friendships where it's just, so much like female friendship vibes, and you're not only just talking about boys, or you're not just only, talking about like shallow things. Like Natalie and Lucy, I think, have so many wonderful deep conversations, and Julia, like the hot new French exchange student. Oh, he was a delight to write. And the funny thing is, this goes back to what I was saying about the plotting versus pantsing. I think I was stuck. I think he's introduced in chapter 3 or 4, and I was just like, I don't know what to do to move the plot forward. Like, my outline was saying something, and I was like, no. And then I was like, what if I introduce like a new guy into the book? And I was like, I'll make him French because, I love France, and, I speak a little bit of French. So I was like, let me just make it, this hot French guy. And so I did that. And I think he's become something of a fan favorite for most of the readers that,
Yep.
I've read the book, whether it's, like I don't look at my reviews, but I've heard from people who I get to read my reviews and tell me all the nice things. They've said like, even in the low rated reviews, they love Julia. Like, he's like their favorite character. Like, I think a few people are like, I want to read a book where he's the main character. He is a black guy from France, and so I don't have the lived experience to write about someone in the black community. So that's never happening. But he's always gonna be, I think, one of my most favorite characters I've ever written. He's just one of those characters in like a book who like makes people have these important realizations and makes people learn so much and unlearn so much about themselves.
Yeah.
We all deserve a friend like him in our lives.
I completely agree. I like the scenes where like he kind of talks about his own experience and like just normalizes it being pansexual for Lucy.
Yes.
And then the scene when when she comes out to him, and like even like the parts like when she texts him after finding out her dad is queer and like things like that. Like, it's just like these little moments, like he becomes like her queer safe space, and it's so nice to read about. I was listening to the audiobook while I was reading the book, and the accent and the voice in the audiobook.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm so jealous. I haven't listened to the audiobook.
You should.
Because I feel really weird about like hearing my words writing back to me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously I've listened to like previews and stuff of the audiobook, but I haven't like actually listened to the whole thing in one go, and I don't think I will. Because I think once my books are, out in the world, I'm just like, that's done. I'm not going to look at them, at least in so much depth, ever again. But yeah, I'm really glad to know that the audiobook was great, because I really had such a nice time like picking out, the narrators for the audiobook audition. And I'm really glad they've done it justice.
Yeah, I'm curious also about like the Indian aspect. Meera speaks Kannada.
Yeah.
I can't remember what Sushant speaks his third
Punjabi. He's Punjabi.
Yes, exactly. And
Yes.
so like the different cultures, you show that in through like the dinner that Lucy and Sushant go to at his house versus how the environment is at Mira's house, and like the
Yeah.
cafe Kismet and the tarot card, and even like the holy scene and things like that. Like
Yes.
I'm curious about what your thought processes were for involving those different diasporic aspects.
So I think one main thing was like I really feel like when you see like Indian characters, whether it's in like Hollywood movies or like even in books, it's usually just it's either very generic, where like you don't really know like which part of India they're from. Because India is not a monolith. Like there's like we have like hundreds of different languages.
Yeah.
Like literally every state has a different, official language. And like you cross the border and people are speaking in a whole other language.
Yep.
I did a lot of research on like, what region should Mira's, Appa be from? And then in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm a Kannadiga. I'm going to make her dad a Kannadiga. And so she's like half Kannadiga, I guess. The South Indian culture, especially the Kannadiga culture from, my side of life. And then I also want to be like, but I don't want Sushant to also be like, from Karnataka, because it's like, I want to show a different aspect. So I made him like, his family is from Delhi, he's a Punjabi. And I just want to show like the diversity and of like these characters are both Indian, but they're so visibly different in terms of their food and their, culture and their habits. And one of my love languages in, writing is food. And so I really wanted to, like, any book of mine that you read, there's gonna be food in it. Like, there's gonna be Indian food in it.
I don't know if this is true or if I just read too much into it, but were there any like parts in this book that had Bollywood inspirations? Because there's a part that I read and I literally I don't know if it's the same one, but
there are two. There's one scene or like one chapter where like obviously every chapter has a song.
Yes.
Right. And so there's one chapter that has the song Tujh Mein Rab Dikhta Hai from Rab Ne Bana Di Jodi. And so Appa just tells Mira that like the way I knew that your father, your dad was the one for me is because I saw God in him. I saw the universe in him. And that was one reference. But another really big Easter egg that I put in, like literally in a dialogue scene, was from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. I don't know how many people would pick up on that, but like, because there's literally a scene where Lucy is like, if I talk to you for even a second longer, I'm gonna fall in love with you again, and that's literally from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, Deepika Padukone's line. But then obviously I gave it a twist again. But yeah, that was 100% intentional because I love that scene.
I read it. I have it pulled up. I love that Easter egg.
There's also like I think a couple of like Bollywood movie references that I don't think I mentioned them very explicitly. Like obviously there's a reference to Om Shanti Om and the Darde Disco scene where Shah Rukh Khan is shirtless. Of course, that's a classic. Like you can't mention Bollywood without mentioning Om Shanti Om. But there's also I think a scene where I mentioned this movie about this guy who like avenges the death of his girlfriend who died because these cops like murdered her. And that is actually a reference to this movie called Malang. So I think I referenced that movie somewhere. And like, I just wanted to put so many Bollywood references in it because, it's Bollywood. It's iconic.
I love that. On the writing side, like, were there any scenes that were your favorite to write and ones that were like hard to write, and what did you do to tackle that?
Obviously if I spend even a minute longer, I'm gonna fall in love with you again. That I loved writing that scene so much. Oh my god, like the drama, the tension. Like I think the crazy thing is, as much as I'm a lover girl and like I love my happily ever afters, the conflict scenes are just so much fun for me to write because of the angst and like the like I hate you, but also I'm in love with you. Like those scenes, like I love those so much. Another scene that I loved writing was when obviously when Mira and Lucy end up kissing.
Yeah.
And then I think that chapter, and then Lucy goes and she has a talk with Sushant and they officially break up. And she comes back and then she sees the message written in the sand. Mira writes, this was a mistake. I'm sorry. She writes it in the sand. And honestly, I feel like if this book ever becomes a movie, that's the scene I would want to see in the movie, especially, the message in the sand. And maybe,
Yeah.
as soon as Lucy sees that, like the waves come and wash it off. And obviously the scene after that, of course, where, Lucy goes back to Mira's house to give her, her flannel back. And then she sees the board with the plan. And
Yep.
then she's like, just in complete disbelief, and she's like heartbroken.
Yeah.
That scene was so good to write. I think what I struggled with towards the end was how Mira was gonna win Lucy back. And I really struggled with that for a while. And it's funny because in the initial draft, what happened was that Mira was not the one who came up with, the plan of like the Taylor Swift song and all the books and stuff. It was Sushant who came up with that plan because in the earlier draft, it was like Sushant was like, this is how I would have proposed to Lucy, when we ended up together. And he's like, but I know you love her, so I'm gonna give this idea to you, like take care of her. And then my editor was like, this is great, we love Sushant, but I also want to see Mira come up with this idea instead because she has to do the winning over. And I was like, you know what, you're right, you're right. That was, I think, that whole like the final few chapters very difficult for me to write. I think because I was like, Mira has phenomenally up. How do I get her to fix things?
Yeah.
And obviously I even end the book with like a little bit of Mira's like, give me a chance. Like I'm gonna keep trying to like, show you and not just tell you that I love you. And I think that was really important for me to write it that way because, they are at the end of the day, they're two teenagers in love. I didn't want to be like, oh, we're in love and like nothing's gonna, there's never going to be any doubts. There's never going to be any conflicts coming up. This is a happily ever after. Like, of course, it's a happily ever after, but it's also like, it's a happily ever after because we're choosing to make it that. I wanted to put that in, and that took me a really long time to figure out. I think I started writing this book in 2021. I finished writing it 2023. I want to no 2024. I want to say I think like early 2024. I finished writing it, and I think in 6 months later we got the offer from my publisher. I think. So it was, it took me ages to write this book. Usually I can write a first draft in like 4 months. This book took me like a year and a half.
I'm so glad that it exists and that it's in the world for other, like people now, like teenagers now, especially Indian teenagers, to read and see so much of themselves in this book. And queer, like Indian queer teenagers.
The intersection, yes.
Yes, exactly. Since you're a mentor coach, but also like you've had 4 books out, you had such a long, publishing career so far and more to come. What is something you would tell to writers of diverse backgrounds who are trying to make it into the publishing world?
I think that the biggest thing I would tell them is that the odds are stacked against us. Like anything that, like white authors, like if they write a book that's like this good and they get published, we have to write a book that's like that good to get even like half as much money as them, to get even half as much success as them. That's unfortunately how publishing works, how the world works, obviously, and publishing is a subset of that. It's heartbreaking and so dismal and disappointing, and there are definitely so many moments in my career where I've been like, is there even a point to like me trying so hard again and again? I'm actually in that point right now because after my book that comes out next year, I don't have any contracted projects. So I'm sort of like, am I ever going to publish another book again? Like, is any publisher going to take me on again? Like that fear is always going to be there. And I think in an industry like publishing, a creative industry, you always have that fear. You're always going to have that fear. Like, I think even the most established authors are always going to have these moments where they're like, this is not stable, this is not consistent. Like, I don't know what my next book is going to be. But for us diverse authors, it's even harder. It's, the playing field is not level. It's horrible. It's skewed. It's biased. It's, in so many ways. So the biggest thing I would say is, you're going to have to work really hard. So the best thing you can do is work on your mental health and work on having faith in yourself. Like, even if you get 100 rejections, don't take it personal. Like, because just because someone rejects your book, it does not always mean the book is lacking in some way. It could just mean the editor or the agent has something similar on their list. Or it could mean they're just not the right fit for you. Or it could just mean that they were in a bad mood. Because that happens. Like, publishing is so subjective. Like, if you pitch something to someone at the wrong time, maybe if you pitched it to them like 5 months ago, they would have taken it on. But now they don't, because it's like right person, wrong timing. But I believe that if it's wrong timing, that means that was the wrong person as well. I really feel that. And so the biggest thing you can do is have like really strong boundaries with your mental health. Just because someone rejects your book does not mean you are a bad writer, does not mean you are undeserving of love or of validation, of fame, of success. This is something my therapist tries so hard to remind me, because I keep forgetting this. Anytime I get a rejection, like a really big rejection from like a publisher or my own publisher, and I tell my therapist, she's like, Swati, like, what is at the root of this? And I'm like, I felt unwanted. And she was like, she'll just be like, your book was rejected. That doesn't mean you are unwanted. And I think that's something, as diverse authors, you have to really remember, because we're going to get 10 times, 100 times more rejections than white authors, than straight authors. That's going to happen. Don't make it about yourself. And if you need to take breaks, take breaks. Like, this industry is not for the faint hearted. This industry is not easy, or in many ways, it's not fun. We write because we want to write. If we wrote because we want to be famous or successful or like rich, you're in the wrong industry. We have to do it for the craft, and everything else will hopefully fall into place along the way. But yeah, have thick skin, but have a soft heart. Do that. Like, that's the biggest thing I'll tell them. But your skin has to be really thick. Like, that is a non-negotiable. The heart can be soft or not. Like, that's a you thing, but thick skin, you need it.
On the other side, maybe nicer side, I'm sure there are so many people who have read your books and read this book and felt seen reading it. What is something you would want to say to those readers?
I think I actually have that in the acknowledgements. So I'm going to read that out, okay? And lastly, dear reader, thank you for making it to the end of this book. As Long as You Loathe Me is the most personal and raw book I've ever written. A love letter to the queer teenager in me who never got to admit her feelings to that popular girl in high school. I hope that just like me, no matter who you are and who you love, you find your people, the ones who make you feel like you belong, even when the whole world is against you. You've got this, we've got this. Don't you ever forget that. And I think that's the biggest thing I want people to take away from this is like, be who you are, love who you want to love who you do love. And even if the whole world is against you, because right now, the current political landscape, that is unfortunately becoming a reality across the world, don't lose hope and just focus on being authentically yourself. You are worthy of love, even if you make very questionable choices, like Mira and Lucy do. Like, you will find your people regardless.
Last question. Is there anything
Oh no.
you can share about the 5th book coming out next year?
So like I mentioned, it is a sapphic YA romance. It is set in New York City. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say just yet, because we're still doing copy edits, we're still finalizing the cover. It hasn't been announced anywhere yet. Although, of course, people know I have a 2-book deal for my YA books with Delacorte, but we haven't like even mentioned the title anywhere. But I will say it has a lot of science vibes.
Ooh.
And the cover, according to my editor, has a lot of Ali Hazelwood vibes. The cover and the title of the book are very Ali Hazelwood coded, in my opinion and my editor's opinion. But yeah, and of course, in true Swati Hegde fashion, the title has a pun. Of course, like that has to happen with my books. Like that is a requirement to be a Swati Hegde book. You need to have a pun in your title. So unfortunately, that's all I can say. Oh, another thing I can say is both the characters are Indian American girls. So that's another thing I can say. But they are again from different, regions in India. And the book will most likely come out May next year. So that's all I can say as of now. But I'm really excited for that book. I love that book so much.
I am so excited. I already I'm picturing it like STEM YA romance vibes. I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Yes.
Yay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Swati, for such a lovely conversation and for writing stories that
Yay.
highlight South Asian experiences. If you haven't read As Long as You Loathe Me, I highly recommend checking it out, buying them from local independent stores or requesting them at your libraries. And make sure to follow her Instagram page for updates and news about her upcoming works. I'll link it in the description below. Thank you so much,
Yay.
Swati. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me, Anvita. I'm so glad we got to do this again. And to
Me too.
anyone who's watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for even considering picking up my books. It means the world to me as a marginalized author. And, I hope you fall in love with Mira and Lucy like they fell in love with each other and the way I fell in love with them while writing the book. Thank you.